Good morning, Sooner Nation. And today we got to talk about an exciting wide receiver that ended up signing with Oklahoma that a lot of you guys might not be paying attention to or particularly just forgot about. This guy has flown under the radar and he actually could be a playmaker for Oklahoma down the road. And it's somebody that we got to talk about. But before we do it, guys, like I said, I checked the stats last night. 28,000 of you guys that are new to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. If you guys haven't, this is the PG show where we talk about all things college football. But I got to show Oklahoma a little bit of love because they're the team that I love talking about. And they're the team that particularly you love to come hear me talk about. And I love to hear you guys jump in the comments and talk about as well. So on that note, make sure you're joining the discussion, jumping down in the comments below, and make sure you're hitting that like and doing me a favor and hitting that subscribe button. But today we're going to talk about the 3-star wide receiver that ended up taking a preferred walk-on with the University of Oklahoma. And I believe it was back in was it June or July? It was like either June or July. I think he took a preferred walk-on role spot with Oklahoma. But Jacob Jordan is out of South Lake Carroll High School in Texas at 5'9", 170 pounds. This was one that when he committed, people were excited about it. Not a lot of people knew who Jacob Jordan was. And, of course, as the class rolled on and you got the Zion Kearneys and the Ivan Carry-ons, like Jacob Jordan kind of just fell down to the bottom of the list of where people remembered, hey, like we're getting this kid. But if you guys remember, we did a video on him earlier when he actually said, hey, like I'm going to commit to Oklahoma. I'm coming in as a PWO. And this was, at the time, it was, I thought, big news because Emmett Jones was able to convince a kid to come take a preferred walk-on role earlier in the year, right? Usually you see people decide, hey, I want to take that preferred walk-on later on in the year, like after early signing day or right before, when most of the rosters are being filled up with scholarship spots and they kind of go, okay, I'm not going to get the scholarship spot. No, like he took it early on. So Emmett Jones is not only getting wins with scholarship kids, he's getting big time wins with preferred walk-ons. And Jacob Jordan was a guy that he had over 6 offers. He had one from Texas Tech. And, a lot of the time you see some of these kids from these other schools in Texas that maybe don't get the offers from the big time programs around them end up at a place like Texas Tech. But he also had offers from like Tulsa and places like that. So Jacob Jordan, I think, is going to be a guy that can come into Oklahoma and maybe play a little bit of slot or just be an absolute deep threat for Oklahoma. No matter how you want to look at it, he's going to be somebody that can be used when he's needed. So I got his huddle pulled up here, and I want you guys to watch some film here while we discuss his stats and while we look at who Jacob Jordan is. So let me pull the stats back up because I just had him up. Jacob Jordan was a guy that in his career as a receiver had 2,267 yards. He averaged 15.4 yards a reception. And as you can see here, he doesn't necessarily blow you away with speed, but hey, the kid can get him his way down the field, right? It looks like a good IQ, looks like he can see the field, he can see the openings, and he can find those. So 2,267 yards, 15.4 yard average, 26 touchdowns. Now, I'm doing a little digging because this year it shows he only had 572 yards and 6 touchdowns. So I would assume there was probably an injury there to where he was not able to replicate his junior year where he had 1,225 yards and 16 touchdowns. So important for Sooner fans to look at that one. He had 147 receptions on 31 games played. And the reason why I mentioned anything about the injury was because last year he played 14 games and he only played 6 this year, which tells me there's probably an underlying reason. And it's not because this kid probably got beat out, because as you can see, the kid's pretty talented. But the kid was also doing a little bit of work in the backfield as well. He, in his career, had 31 games played, 6 carries, 135 yards for a 22.5 yard average. Never had a touchdown in the rushing game. But hey, you know what? If you're speedy enough, you look like maybe a Gavin Freeman, you could be a guy that takes it out of the backfield for Oklahoma. So I know a lot of people don't want to talk about the jet sweeps. I looked at the early signing day class and said Jacob Jordan was definitely somebody that was flying under the radar. And I wanted to bring him back into the spotlight for Oklahoma fans because I think we underestimate just how good of a recruiter Emmett Jones is. Because you look at, he's almost got a 2025 class locked down. He's got one recruit left, or maybe two, depending on who wants to commit, in the 2025 class. Then you look at 2024, and we talked about it. Got Zion Kearney, the number 112th ranked player. And Zion, he's 6'2", 210. But when you look at Zion Kearney's intangibles, like he's a guy that's going to bring in a lot of just necessity to this team after maybe a Jaden Gibson and a Nick Anderson go on. You look at guys like Ivan Carrion, the 6'6", 196-pound wide receiver you got out of Odessa, Texas, that was originally committed to Tech. He comes over here when Emmett Jones comes, and this guy could be a wide receiver tight end hybrid for you. Then you look at Zion Raggins, a guy that definitely is going to be able to play in the spot because extremely fast, 5'7", 150 pounds, but dude is unmatched, not only on the track field, but in the wide receiver room. So, and then in the transfer portal, he goes and gets you a guy by the name of Deion Burks from Purdue, who was an absolute standout at the wide receiver position there in the ACC. So I look at it and say, if Emmett Jones can make the evaluation on a guy like this, offer him a PWO, get him to come on campus and join this loaded wide receiver room, who am I to doubt that a PWO is not going to see the field, right? I think this guy is talented enough that if he comes in, he works hard, he's going to see some time. He's going to see some action. You know, it might be second string reps for a while, but you never know. Maybe down the road, he ends up beating somebody out. And as you can see from his film here, this is a guy that you necessarily just can't keep off the field because you've got a bunch of other guys on the field that were a little bit higher rated. Remember, stars don't always matter. Sometimes they don't, especially at these skill positions, because I think sometimes you can get lost in the evaluation of talent, and guys like this can get lost. So, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like, you hit that subscribe button. I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are, because again, I think Jacob Jordan is a prospect that's flying under the radar for most Oklahoma fans. I think he was a guy that was forgotten about, but we need to bring him back into the spotlight a little bit because this was a big acquisition for Emmett Jones in Oklahoma, and I want to hear from you guys. So hit that like, hit that subscribe button, join the discussion by jumping in the comments below.